across the world's major spiritual traditions. Enlightenment refers to the profound shift in human consciousness from a state of separation and ego-driven ignorance to a state of ultimate unity, freedom, and realization of the absolute. While mainstream religions frequently emphasize their unique historical dogmas and literal narratives, their esoteric or contemplative branches converge on a shared metaphysical insight, a phenomenon scholars call the perennial philosophy. When stripped of cultural dressing, the distinct names and stories serve as regional metaphors for the exact same psychological and spiritual breakthrough: the death of the isolated self and the awakening to an interconnected reality. For example, in Hinduism, the spiritual journey is poetically described as a drop of water falling into the ocean, slowly realizing that it was always the ocean itself. This narrative serves as a metaphor for dissolving the daily illusion of separation, Maya. By looking past the ego, a person discovers that their individual soul, Atman, is entirely identical to the universal consciousness. The core Buddhist metaphor for enlightenment is the act of blowing out a candle's flame after it has completely consumed its fuel. Rather than representing total destruction, this image symbolizes extinguishing the internal fires of craving, anger, and the delusion of a permanent, isolated self, Anatta. Once these psychological fires are snuffed out, boundless peace and unshakable freedom remain. Within the mystical branch of Islam, the path to the divine is illustrated by a moth being utterly consumed by the flame of its beloved. This striking story represents the total annihilation, phenomena, of the human ego inside the fire of God's absolute love. Once the small, selfish identity burns away, the seeker permanently subsists baka within a pure, divine consciousness. 1. Christian mystics describe this transformation as becoming partakers of the divine nature, or fully embodying Christ consciousness. The story of spiritual rebirth is actually a metaphor for transcending the separate self to achieve absolute union with the divine ground. It is perfectly captured by St. Paul's realization: "It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." In Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, enlightenment is framed as devekut, which translates to cleaving or bonding closely to an infinite source of light. This metaphor describes a continuous, highly meditative state of mind. In this state, the seeker realizes that the physical, material world is an illusion, which then dissolves into absolute divine oneness. Taoism uses natural, effortless metaphors to describe the enlightened mind, comparing it to an uncarved block of wood or water smoothly carving its way through stone. This imagery points to a person returning to their natural, original state of harmony with the universe. By dropping ego-driven resistance, they learn to flow effortlessly with the foundational current of reality, the Tao. Ultimately, every other religion or spiritual practice teaches enlightenment as a form of rebirth where the old self, usually called the ego, has to die to give way to the renewed, enlightened self. With all the effort that people have put into achieving enlightenment, are there any real benefits into walking this path in 2026? After all, people have real-world things to attend to. People have jobs to go to, bills to pay, and families to look after. So will walking this path improve your life in any way? Many modern churches have sold the idea that if you give money to the church, God will reward you financially, or that you will be lucky, but when you ask questions of how that would come about, maybe they will quote you one Bible verse without any form of reasoning. This is the purpose of this channel, to show you the tangible benefits of attaining enlightenment and walking the path that very few people will ever find, because the ultimate benefit of enlightenment is freedom. Freedom from jobs, freedom from stress, and freedom from people's expectations, because once you have achieved true enlightenment, you not only have the skills required to make it out in the world with the wisdom and understanding you will attain, but will walk with confidence ready to tackle any challenge the world throws at you.